This I admit, it was sweet sciencey. It was boring when Rigondeaux fought Francisco on the undercard of Cotto versus Canelo. So let's get right into it. The WBA has ordered that the winner of Frampton IBF champion versus Scott Quigg, WBA world champion. Remember, the WBA has two belts. You'll be surprised a lot of people still don't know that. Has to fight Rigondeaux by July the 27th from 2016. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. And this is a fight where politics play such a big role that even though the WBA says that they have to fight the winner, they have to fight Rigondeaux, I don't believe it's going to necessarily come true. Okay, for one, when it comes to Scott Quigg, he's an Eddie Hearn fighter. Eddie Hearn and Rock Nation haven't put together a fight yet. If you don't know, Rigondeaux is signed with Jay-Z's Rock Nation, so he has financial support. So the excuse of Rigondeaux don't bring in no money, in my opinion, can't be used anymore, because I'm pretty much sure that if it came to a purse bid, Rock Nation is going to make sure that Rigondeaux makes $1 million and whoever makes $1 million plus whatever the case may be. The issue with Rigondeaux is not an exciting fighter. Only hardcore fans really know who he is. And sometimes we have a tough time watching him because it's okay. Like I enjoy Rigondeaux fights, but sometimes them shits be boring. Let's just put it out there. But at the same time, it's an acquired taste. It's all about what you're looking for. I don't mind sitting back and watching some sweet sciencey type of fights that Rigondeaux fighters like Iris Landy Law, Rancis Barthélemy, fighters like that, the Cuban school fighters, tend to bring. But see, I feel that if Scott Quigg was to beat Frampton, which it can happen, Frampton didn't look good in his last fight, and it's all about your last fight. He didn't look good against Alejandro Gonzalez, of all people, and Scott Quigg has a pressure fighter's chance. That's what he is. He's a pressure fighter, power puncher. And, if he chases Frampton down enough, he may be able to score a knockdown, a flash knockdown, or get, a win on the cards by points. Do I think he's going to outbox a Frampton? No, not in any way, shape, or form. So if Scott Quigg wins, then I can see maybe an Eddie Hearn and a Rock Nation putting together a Quigg versus Rigondeaux for the WBA Super World Champion, because right now there is no WBA Super World Champion, because Rigondeaux, who had that belt, the WBA basically stripped him but gave him like an emeritus status, saying basically that he's a champion in recess. So technically the belt is just vacant until, I'm guessing, Scott Quigg, or Frampton fights Rigondeaux for it. But when it comes to Frampton, if he wins, he's a cyclone fighter, but now he's advised by Al Haymon. Al Haymon and Rock Nation don't have a working relationship. Most notably, when we seen that Peter Quillin dropped his WBO title because Rock Nation won a purse bid for the Quillin versus Matvey Korobov. We saw that an Al Haymon fighter would drop their title rather than to work with Rock Nation. Remember, Rock Nation also offered another Al Haymon fighter, Keith Thurman, a lot of money. Keith Thurman had to turn it down. Remember, they offered Deontay Wilder some money. They had to turn it down. Remember, they offered Adrian Broner money. They had to turn it down, and that's because of Al Haymon. So I'm thinking when it comes to Rigondeaux, if Frampton wins, will Frampton drop the WBA belt because Al Haymon says you have to? And how does that play in when it comes to Cyclone Promotions, who's the primary promoter, longtime promoter of Frampton? So it's interesting that I can see Rigondeaux versus a Scott Quigg happening before I can see a Rigondeaux versus a Frampton happening, which is a more, a bigger fight than me. Rigondeaux versus Frampton is a fight that I would really be able to watch, because I would really support, because I've said in the past that Frampton, in my opinion, has the boxing ability and skill to beat a Rigondeaux. And let's face it, Rigondeaux is not perfect. He's been on a canvas before, and we don't know if he may have that Iris Landy Lara, curse to where there's fights that Iris Landy Lara should have won, but he never did enough to convincingly win in all eyes, the fans, the media, you know, and the judges' eyes. When you look at the Paul Williams, when you look at the Canelo, when you look at the Carlos Molina, when you look at the, even when it came to Vince Martirosyan, Erislandy Lara has always been known to to boxing fans as a fighter that can fight, and he's supposed to win. And he's still very good despite his 2 losses and his 2 draws, but he never seems to just do enough to really seal the deal. And we don't know if that's Rigondeaux yet. I mean, after all, he hasn't really fought top competition outside of Nonito Donaire, and we saw what he did to him, just straight out boxing him, Cuban schooling. You know, I don't know. You know, I don't know, especially he's getting up there in age now, you know, and he's not a guy that's going to go out there and throw 100 punches around. So, you know, fighting a Carl Frampton or Scott Quigg, that could hurt him, you know, in the cards. Maybe they can outthrow him, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not going to get Cuban school, but he can end up maybe in a situation where he can fight Scott Quigg and the fight might end up in a draw. But I'm rambling. You know, I'm watching this boring-ass Francisco fight in the background. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. It's interesting to see where this is going to go. Carl Frampton versus Scott Quigg is taking place, I believe it's February the 27th, the end of February. It's on Sky Sports box office, and Rigondeaux doesn't have a fight set up yet, but I think that Rock Nation should keep him active. The only thing is going to be where you're going to televise him at. I don't think HBO is going to give him his own card yet, so he's going to have to fight on the undercard of somebody. Maybe they'll put him on the undercard of Andre Ward's fight. That's supposed to be on March the 26th. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.